Underpinning their passion is a passion for details, for inspecting every book to make sure it's in good condition and noting each book's value.
We know that as of last month, we had packed almost 52,000 books with a cover price of $550,000 worth of books.
They sort and match books to recipients, whether they're intended for Old Orchard Nursing Home in the Lehigh Valley or the USS George Herbert Walker Bush aircraft carrier in Norfolk, Virginia.
As far as to the troops, we'll ship out anywhere from 15 to 20 boxes. Now, with a flat rate box, as many books as you can fit in a box will go. It's not based on weight. So it's a flat rate. It's like $14.85 now.
They ship to APO and FPO military addresses for much less than regular postal rates. They make every cent count to get the books to the troops, and especially the kids.
We're so interconnected anymore, and by empowering children with a book, we are empowering ourselves.
And so, from a tiny office in South Bethlehem, the mission continues to help people beat swords into plowshares through the power of a book. For Tempo and Depth, I'm Grover Silcox reporting.
Thank you so much, Grover. To learn more about international outreach, Brian McDonald joins me now. Brian is the Director of International Learning at DeSales University. Thanks for being with us today, Brian.
Sure, I'm happy to be here.
Now, you manage service learning trips, which are different from study abroad trips. What's the difference between the two?
Well, study abroad typically is for academic credit, for tourism, for all kinds of reasons. But the service trips are really to reach out to some vulnerable populations in poor countries around the world. They tend to be shorter term as well, I'm sorry.
How long does a typical service trip last versus a study abroad trip?
Well, a typical study abroad trip can be anywhere from 8 weeks to an entire semester to an entire year for some students. The service trips are very condensed. They tend to be 10 days to 2 weeks in duration.
So where do you currently have students out on service trip?
Well, right now we have a group of about 30 students who are in South Africa working with the Oblate missions in South Africa. So they're working in schools, in orphanages, they're working with the poor and the hungry in those areas. So they do all kinds of activities with them.
Are you in contact with them while they're there? And if so, what are you hearing?
The only contact, they just arrived, so the only contact I've had so far is that they're there and they're safely there. But they do have a blog going for this trip, so anyone can read up on what's going on with them and the activities that they're doing each day.
And share with us what some of the past trips, the most successful past trips that you've done are.
Well, a few years ago we had a group of about the same amount of students who were in Bangalore, India, working with a school there. So working with English, helping students develop their English skills, helping to rebuild some of the facilities that weren't doing so well. So they were painting buildings and rebuilding things. And even things as simple as helping the students get to school. The bus would drop them off across a 4 or 5 lane highway, and then the students had to walk across it. So if you can imagine our students, children, walking across 78 to get to school each day, that's what they're facing. So just helping them to get across the street so that they can get to school each day was one of the activities that they did.
You know, we take for granted in this country that we can get to school, that's something that, in many cases we have buses and cars that we can get ourselves to and from school.
Absolutely.
Something that really makes you take it for granted.
Yeah. We've also sent students to Calcutta, India, working with the Missionaries of Charity, or the Sisters of Mother Teresa, and continuing the work that she started and helping the women there who are doing so much for the poor and the hungry there. So they're going out into the slums and into the community, handing out food, handing out safe drinking water, trying to do some education about, food cleanliness and things like that. So really eye-opening experiences for students, because in Calcutta is part of India where people still suffer from polio. We take it for granted because of all our vaccinations, but for them to see people in these kinds of states is really eye-opening for our students.
Now, where do you want to go in the future?
We have thought about going to a refugee camp outside of Lima, Peru. Sometime in the 80s and 90s there was a civil war within Peru. So a lot of the people from the mountains came down to the cities for safety. So there's actually an abandoned quarry where I believe there's about 100,000 people who live there. They have their water trucked in every day. They have a lot of their services and food services trucked in, but there's a small medical clinic. There's a school that's doing education. There is a church there as well. So there's a lot of opportunities for our students to go there and help the people there in any way that they can.
Why does DeSales make this commitment to service learning trips?
Well, it really keeps in line with our mission as a Catholic university. You know, we want to help people no matter what the situation is, but more importantly, it's really what our students want to do. Our students are overwhelmingly caring and kind people who just want to reach out to anyone they can. The Center for Service and Social Justice, which runs these trips, not only does these international trips, they do local programs, domestic programs, but even more than that, some of our students will just, when Sandy hit, they just got in their cars and went up to see if they could help. They didn't bother to try to get into an organization. They just went up and said, we'll help however we can. Same thing with Katrina. So wherever they can help, our students really want to help people.
You also mentioned that in addition to these service trips where students actually go and help, that you also do different kinds of fundraising efforts as well, where they're sending funds or goods to places around the world.
That's true. Our physician assistant program each year does a car wash on campus that raises money for Haiti. The students who are in South Africa right now also did some fundraising and received some grant money, I believe, to buy some iPads to give to the students in the schools that they're working with. And the students who went this year, in addition to all their luggage, packed 12 suitcases with sporting equipment and clothing, school supplies, foodstuffs, anything that they could to bring to the students to help them out. So they are very generous as well.
So even if you can't actually attend one of the trips, there's still a lot you can do?
Absolutely, absolutely.
What do you expect from the students when they go on these trips, and how do the students fund them?
Well, the university partially subsidizes the trip, so it usually works out that the students pay, right around what their airfare would cost them. So it makes it much more affordable for students who otherwise may not have been able to do this. But in terms of what we expect is just that they're going to go there with an open mind and an open heart and do the best that they can for whomever they can.
And how many students are on a typical trip?
Anywhere from 15 to 30 students for a short-term trip.
Great. Thank you so much for this wonderful information, Brian.
Oh, absolutely. You're very welcome.
All right, hang out for a second. I have a special job for you in a moment.
Okay.
Well, for more information about the programs in tonight's show, check out these websites. At sites.lafayette.edu/Lyme, you can learn more about the college's initiative for Malagasy education. Next, at franksmithphotos.com, you can see more of Frank's amazing images from South Sudan, Haiti, India, and beyond. Finally, log on to judithreadingroom.org to find out how you can get involved in this local organization doing such great work. Well, before we leave tonight, Brian, can you help me out with something? We have a special drawing for members of our studio audience. So while I tell them what they're going to get, would you mind picking a number out of this bag for me? The Sands Casino Resort Bethlehem has donated a $50 gift certificate, good at the shops, restaurants, and event center. And so, Brian, tell us who won, and whoever wins, stand up and let us know who you are.
Number 14.
Number 14. All right, congratulations. And thank you so much to our neighbors at the Sands for providing these gift certificates to members of our studio audience throughout our season this year. Well, that wraps up our show and our Tempo season. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great night.